The betrayal ambassador, Elena Rodriguez, pressed her face against the observation window as the massive space station grew larger in the darkness. Nexus Prime was unlike anything humanity had ever built. The structure stretched for dozens of kilometers, its crystalline towers and metallic rings spinning slowly in the void. Thousands of alien ships moved around it like schools of fish, their designs as varied as the species that built them. "First time seeing it never gets old," said Captain Luis Rodriguez from behind her. The captain shared her last name, but no relation, a coincidence that had amused them both during the long journey from Earth. His weathered face showed the strain of commanding humanity's most important mission. "Still gives me chills thinking we're about to make history." Elena turned from the window, smoothing her dark blue diplomatic uniform. At 38, she had spent 15 years studying alien cultures and languages, preparing for this exact moment. When humanity first detected the radio signals from the Stellar Confederation 5 years ago, she had volunteered immediately to lead the contact mission. "How long until we dock?" 30 minutes, Ambassador. Your team is ready in briefing room 2. Captain Rodriguez checked his tablet. The Confederation has assigned us docking bay 7 Alpha. Apparently, it's reserved for species making first contact. Elena nodded and made her way through the corridors of the Earth vessel, Horizon's Edge. The ship was humanity's finest achievement, equipped with experimental engines that could cross interstellar distances in weeks rather than years. But compared to the alien vessels they had seen, it looked primitive and small dot in the briefing room. Her team was making final preparations. Dr. Marcus Chun, a brilliant xenobiologist with graying temples, was reviewing his notes on Confederation physiology. Captain Sarah Mitchell, head of their security detail, was checking her ceremonial sidearm for the 10th time. Commander David Park, their communications expert, was testing the universal translator one last time. "Remember," Elena said as she joined them, "we represent all of humanity today. Every word we speak, every gesture we make, will determine our species' future in the galaxy. The Confederation has agreed to this meeting, which means they're at least curious about us." Dr. Chun looked up from his tablet. "The intelligence we've gathered suggests 5 major species control the Confederation. The Zelthak are the senior partners, followed by the Mordun, the Keshai, the Vorthak, and the Sintar. Each has been spacefaring for thousands of years. Their technology is clearly superior to ours," Commander Park added, "but that doesn't mean we have nothing to offer. Human creativity and adaptability could be valuable to them." Captain Mitchell remained quiet, but Elena could see the tension in her shoulders. As their security chief, Mitchell was responsible for their safety in an environment where humans had no allies and no backup. "What's our exit strategy if things go badly?" she asked finally. "The same as our entry strategy," Elena replied. "We trust in diplomacy and hope for the best. Violence is not an option here. We're outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1. The docking procedure went smoothly. Confederation traffic control guided the Horizon's Edge to their assigned berth with professional efficiency. Through the ports, Elena watched alien dock workers in environmental suits moving around their ship. Some walked on 2 legs like humans, others floated using anti-gravity devices, and a few moved on multiple limbs in ways that hurt to watch. The airlock cycled open with a soft hiss. Elena stepped through first, followed by her team. The docking bay was enormous, with a curved ceiling that disappeared into shadows above. The air was slightly thicker than Earth normal, with a metallic taste that made her nose wrinkle. A delegation of aliens waited to greet them. The leader was clearly Zelphic, standing nearly 3 meters tall, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. Its voice came through their translators as a melodious whistle. "Welcome, humans. I am Arbitrator Colthus. The High Council awaits your presentation." They were escorted through corridors lined with symbols Elena didn't recognize. The walls seemed to be made of a material that shifted between metal and crystal, depending on the angle of view. Other aliens moved past them, some barely glancing at the humans, while others stared with obvious curiosity. The council chamber was breathtaking. The circular room rose hundreds of meters above them, with seating arranged in concentric rings. Representatives from dozens of species filled the seats, their forms ranging from humanoid to completely alien. At the center of the highest ring sat 5 massive chairs, each occupied by one of the Confederation's ruling species. High Arbiter Zelthek dominated the central chair. The ancient being's skin had a metallic sheen, and its eyes were pools of liquid silver. When it spoke, the chamber fell completely silent. Humans of Earth, you stand before the Stellar Confederation Council. State your purpose. Elena stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. Honored members of the council, I am Ambassador Elena Rodriguez, representing the United Earth Government. We come seeking friendship and membership in your great alliance. Humanity offers our unique perspectives, our scientific knowledge, and our commitment to peaceful cooperation among all sentient species. The translator's mechanical voice echoed her words throughout the chamber. For a long moment, there was complete silence. Then, slowly, sounds began emanating from different sections of the gallery. The translator identified them as amusement, derision, and contempt. Arbiter Mordak of the Mordak species spoke next. Its insectoid form clicked and chittered, while the translator rendered its words in cold, precise tones. Humans, we have observed your species for 57 of your years. You wage constant warfare against your own kind. You poison your planetary environment. You demonstrate all the characteristics of a primitive, violent species unfit for civilized society. Elena felt her team tense behind her, but she kept her composure. Every species goes through a period of growth and learning. Humanity has overcome our greatest challenges. We have united our world under a single government dedicated to peace and exploration. We have cleaned our environment and ended warfare among our people. We are ready to take our place among the stars. The chamber erupted in what the translator called expressions of disbelief and mockery. Elena realized with growing horror that the council had never intended to take humanity seriously. This was not a diplomatic meeting. It was a judgment, and the verdict had been decided before they arrived. High Arbiter Zelthek raised one of its 4 arms, and the noise subsided. Child species, you misunderstand your position. The Confederation is not an alliance of equals. It is a hierarchy based on wisdom, age, and evolutionary advancement. Young races like yours serve their betters until you prove worthy of minimal autonomy. Perhaps in a few thousand years, your descendants might qualify for client status. Elena's blood ran cold. That is completely unacceptable. Humanity will never accept servitude to any species. We offer partnership between equals, or we offer nothing at all. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop 20 degrees. Arbiter Keshai of the Keshai leaned forward in its chair, its serpentine form coiling with apparent anger. Then you have chosen to remain isolated in your insignificant solar system forever. No, said High Arbiter Zelthek, standing to its full imposing height. They have chosen extinction. What happened next occurred in less than 3 seconds, but Elena experienced it as an eternity. Energy weapons descended from hidden emplacements in the ceiling. She had time to think about her parents, about the children she would never have, about the future of humanity that now hung in the balance. The beam struck her center mass, and Elena Rodriguez, humanity's first interstellar ambassador, simply ceased to exist. Dr. Chun screamed. Captain Mitchell reached for her weapon, but alien security drones were already surrounding them. More energy beams flashed, and within moments, the entire human delegation had been reduced to empty uniforms on the chamber floor. On the bridge of the horizon's edge, Captain Rodriguez watched the life signs of his diplomatic team disappear from his monitors one by one. First Elena, then Marcus, then Sarah, finally David. All gone in seconds. His communications officer turned to him with a face drained of color. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Council." "Put it through." High Arbiter Zelfek's voice filled the bridge, cold and final. "Human vessel, you will depart Confederation space immediately. Return to your world and inform your leaders of what befalls those who do not know their proper place. If any human ship enters our territory again, it will be destroyed without warning. Your species is quarantined to your system until you learn wisdom." Captain Rodriguez stared at the massive space station where 4 good people had just been murdered in cold blood. Elena had been right about one thing. Every word and gesture would determine humanity's future. The Council had just made their position clear. They saw humans as nothing more than animals to be caged or put down. Asterisk. "Helm, set course for Earth. Maximum velocity." His voice was quiet, but every crew member could hear the anger burning beneath the surface. "Sir, should we transmit a message ahead?" asked his communications officer. Rodriguez thought carefully. Earth needed to know what had happened, but they also needed to understand what kind of beings they were dealing with. The Confederation had shown their true nature today. They had murdered a diplomatic mission under a flag of truce. "Send this message," he said slowly. Mission failed. Ambassador Rodriguez and team executed without provocation during formal diplomatic contact. The Stellar Confederation considers humanity unworthy of membership and demands permanent quarantine to our solar system. They believe we are primitive animals to be controlled or eliminated. He paused, watching the alien station shrink in their rear sensors. "Tell them the Confederation made a critical error today. They showed us exactly who we're dealing with, and they revealed their true nature." Elena Rodriguez died trying to bring peace to the galaxy. The Council's response was murder. As the Horizon's Edge turned away from Nexus Prime and began its journey back to Earth, Captain Rodriguez made a silent promise to his fallen crew members. Elena, Marcus, Sarah, and David had believed in the possibility of peaceful coexistence. They had died carrying humanity's hopes for a better future. The Confederation thought that killing them would make humanity retreat in fear. They were about to discover how catastrophically wrong they were. The murder of Elena Rodriguez and her team would not be the end of humanity's story among the stars. It would be the beginning of something the galaxy had never seen before. And when it was over, the Stellar Confederation would learn the true meaning of consequences. The journey home would take 3 weeks. Captain Rodriguez spent that time preparing his report and thinking about what came next. He had witnessed the execution of humanity's finest diplomat and her brave team. Now he would have to face their families, their government, and their entire species with news that would change everything. Elena Rodriguez had come to the stars, believing in the possibility of peace. Her death would teach the galaxy a different lesson entirely. Some species, Captain Rodriguez reflected as Earth grew larger in his viewports, should never be pushed beyond their breaking point. The Confederation was about to learn that humanity had no breaking point at all. They had limits, but when those limits were crossed, they didn't break. They evolved into something far more dangerous than anyone could imagine. The Reckoning, the emergency session of the Global Defense Council convened 18 hours after the Horizon's Edge transmitted its devastating report. President Maria Santos stood at the head of the conference table in the secure bunker beneath Geneva, her normally calm demeanor cracked by barely controlled fury. Around the table sat the leaders of every major nation on Earth, their faces grim, as they absorbed the reality of what had happened. Ambassador Rodriguez and her entire team were executed in cold blood while carrying out a diplomatic mission, President Santos said, her voice steady despite the rage burning in her dark eyes. The Stellar Confederation has made their position clear. They view humanity as animals to be caged or destroyed. They have given us an ultimatum: accept permanent quarantine to our solar system or face extinction. Chancellor Friedrich Weber of the European Alliance leaned forward. The strategic implications are clear. They have thousands of ships' technology we can barely comprehend, and 3 millennia of spacefaring experience. If we resist using conventional means, humanity will be extinct within months. Prime Minister Yuki Tanaka of the Pacific Federation nodded grimly. Then what options do we have? Surrender and accept their judgment that we're primitive animals? General Robert Thompson, Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Command, stood slowly. He was a lean man with steel-gray hair and eyes like winter storms. For 30 years, he had been preparing for this exact scenario, though he had hoped it would never come. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Project Eclipse. The holographic display activated, showing Earth's solar system. But this wasn't the solar system known to the general public. Hidden installations appeared throughout the system, on the dark side of the moon, in the asteroid belt, orbiting the gas giants, and buried deep within the outer planets. Facilities that had been operating in absolute secrecy for decades. While the world focused on peace and exploration, General Thompson explained, a select group of scientists and military strategists prepared for the possibility that we might encounter hostile alien civilizations. Project Eclipse represents humanity's insurance policy against extinction. Dr. Amanda Foster, the project's chief scientist, activated additional displays. Her appearance was deceptive, a small woman in her 50s with graying hair and gentle eyes. Those who knew her work understood that she was possibly the most dangerous human alive. The Confederation believes they understand human technology because they've observed our public activities. They've seen our wars, our environmental struggles, and our political conflicts. What they haven't seen is what we developed in absolute secrecy. The display showed weapons that pushed the boundaries of physics itself. Quantum destabilizers that could unravel the atomic structure of entire planets. Stellar manipulation devices that could turn stars into weapons. Temporal distortion. Fields that could age enemy ships centuries in seconds. Technology that was too dangerous to ever test openly. The Confederation's greatest mistake, Dr. Foster continued, was assuming that our visible conflicts represented the limit of our capabilities. In reality, our wars taught us to innovate at a pace they can't imagine. Every enemy we faced forced us to develop new solutions. Every crisis made us more creative, more adaptable, more dangerous. President Santos studied the displays with fascination and horror. How is this possible? How did we develop such advanced technology without anyone knowing? Simple, General Thompson replied. We never stopped preparing for the worst-case scenario. While the public saw humanity moving toward peace and unity, our best minds were asking a different question. What happens if we encounter an enemy we can't negotiate with? Elena Rodriguez believed in diplomacy because she didn't know about Eclipse. Her faith in peaceful solutions was genuine, which made her the perfect ambassador. But we always had a backup plan. Admiral Patricia Jackson, commander of the Eclipse fleet, outlined the military response. She was a compact woman with short black hair and scars on her hands from years of working with experimental technology. Her voice carried the quiet authority of someone who had dedicated her life to protecting humanity from threats most people couldn't imagine. We have 43 operational vessels in the Eclipse fleet, she explained. Each ship is equipped with technology the Confederation cannot detect, understand, or defend against. They think they know what human engineering looks like because they've observed our public space program. They're wrong by about 500 years. The plan they presented was both elegant and terrifying in its simplicity. Humanity would appear to capitulate, sending a message to the Confederation accepting their judgment and requesting mercy. A single diplomatic vessel would approach Nexus Prime, broadcasting surrender on all frequencies and asking for one final chance to formally submit to Confederation authority. What the aliens wouldn't detect was that the ship's hull contained billions of microscopic stellar cores, artificial mini-suns that could be triggered remotely. Each core was smaller than a grain of sand, but contained enough compressed nuclear fire to devastate entire star systems. The diplomatic vessel would be a gift that would demonstrate humanity's true capabilities. Captain Rodriguez volunteered for the mission before anyone else could speak. "They killed Elena and her team," he said simply. "I want to be the one who delivers humanity's response." Dr. Foster activated another display, showing a galaxy-wide communication network that humanity had been secretly accessing for years. Message will reach every inhabited world in Confederation space simultaneously. Every species, every colony, every individual who believes humans are primitive animals will receive the same broadcast. The message had been crafted by Earth's finest strategic communication specialists. It needed to reach not just the Confederation leadership, but every species that had accepted their rule. Every being who had participated in or approved of Elena Rodriguez's murder. "People of the galaxy," the message began. "This is the Human Defense Command. Your Confederation murdered our ambassador while she attempted to establish peaceful relations. Elena Rodriguez died carrying humanity's hopes for friendship and cooperation. Your leaders responded to her offer of partnership with execution." 3 days later, the diplomatic vessel New Promise departed Earth orbit. It appeared to be completely defenseless, broadcasting surrender messages and humanity's formal acceptance of quarantine. Confederation sensors would detect no weapons, no shielding, nothing threatening at all. Just a defeated species accepting its fate. Captain Rodriguez sat alone on the bridge as his ship approached Confederation space. He thought about Elena and her team, about their belief in the possibility of peaceful coexistence. The Confederation had decided that humans weren't worth talking to as equals. They had chosen murder as their response to an offer of friendship. They were about to learn that humanity disagreed with their assessment. The New Promise was intercepted at the edge of Confederation space by a patrol fleet. Rodriguez responded exactly as planned, broadcasting detailed surrender messages and requesting permission to approach Nexus Prime to formally submit to Confederation authority. The Council, eager to see the humans grovel and confident in their absolute superiority, granted permission immediately. The small Earth ship was escorted to the same docking bay where the Horizon's Edge had arrived weeks before. Rodriguez walked through the station corridors, carrying what appeared to be humanity's formal surrender document. Confederation guards watched him with barely concealed contempt, seeing only another primitive creature accepting its proper place in the natural order. The Council chamber looked exactly as it had before, except now Rodriguez could see scorch marks on the floor where Elena and her team had died. Those marks filled him with cold, focused rage as he walked to the center of the chamber. High Arbiter Zel-Thak looked down at him with the same arrogance it had shown Elena. "So the humans have finally learned wisdom. You come to accept your species' proper role as servants to your betters?" Rodriguez reached into his jacket and withdrew what appeared to be a simple document reader. It was actually a quantum trigger connected to the stellar cores embedded throughout his ship's hull. He looked up at the assembled aliens and smiled. "Honored members of the Council," he said in a clear, calm voice, "humanity has carefully considered your generous offer." He pressed the activation button. "We respectfully decline." The stellar cores activated simultaneously. In the docking bay, the New Promise began to undergo controlled nuclear fusion on a microscopic scale. The ship's hull became a constellation of tiny suns, each one generating temperatures that existed naturally only in stellar cores. Station shields and armor meant nothing against weapons that replicated the fundamental forces that powered stars. Rodriguez had just enough time to see. The chamber filled with brilliant white light before the reaction consumed everything within 50 kilometers. The explosion was visible from 12 star systems, a miniature supernova that announced humanity's true capabilities to anyone with sensors advanced enough to analyze what had happened. The destruction of Nexus. Prime sent shockwaves throughout Confederation space, but the real devastation came from the message that accompanied it. Dr. Foster's quantum communication network activated simultaneously across the galaxy, broadcasting on every frequency that intelligent beings used to communicate. "This is Admiral Patricia Jackson of the Human Defense Fleet," the message began. "The Stellar Confederation has murdered our diplomatic mission and threatened our species with quarantine or extinction. This act has consequences. Humanity does not forgive the murder of innocents. Humanity does not forget those responsible. And humanity is coming for all of you." The reaction was immediate and catastrophic. The Confederation, which had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, suddenly found itself without leadership. High Arbiter Zelthuk and the entire senior council had been vaporized, along with their supposedly impregnable station. Within hours, Eclipse Fleet strike teams emerged from hiding places throughout Confederation space. They had been infiltrating alien territory for months using stealth technology that made them invisible to enemy sensors. The attacks were precise, psychological, and designed to demonstrate humanity's true capabilities. On the Morgon homeworld, Commander Lisa Park led a team that used atmospheric processors to alter the planet's chemical composition. The changes weren't lethal, but they made the air smell like Elena Rodriguez's favorite perfume. 40 billion aliens couldn't breathe without being reminded of the human diplomat they had helped murder. The Keshai military installations found their computer networks infected with a virus that displayed Elena's final speech on every screen. Human hackers had taken complete control of their information systems, using quantum consciousness technology that the aliens couldn't detect or counter. But the most devastating attack came against the Vorthak Empire itself. Dr. Foster's team had developed a weapon that could manipulate stellar behavior from a distance. 12 Vorthak star systems woke up to find their suns flickering ominously, solar flares dancing across their surfaces in patterns that spelled out, "Remember Elena Rodriguez in Human Mathematics." The psychological impact was exactly what humanity had planned. For 3 millennia, the Confederation species had believed they were the most advanced beings in the galaxy. They had developed their technology in peace, expanded their territories without serious resistance, and grown comfortable with the idea that they were naturally superior to all other life forms. Humanity showed them what 3,000 years of constant warfare could produce. Every human conflict had taught them something new about survival, adaptation, and the art of making enemies stop existing. While the Confederation grew soft in their certainty of supremacy, humans had been forged in the fires of endless competition. Admiral Jackson deployed the Eclipse fleet across 20 star systems simultaneously. Each vessel carried enough firepower to sterilize entire worlds, but humanity wasn't interested in conquest or genocide. They were proving a point. Any species that threatened Earth would discover that humans were far more dangerous than they. Appeared the few Confederation fleets that attempted to fight back were destroyed so completely that other aliens began to wonder if they had ever existed at all. Human ships used gravitational weapons that crushed enemy vessels with their own mass, quantum fields that aged targets to dust in seconds, and stellar fire that burned at temperatures no known material could withstand. Fear spread through Confederation. Space like a plague. Species that had served the Council for centuries began declaring independence, sensing that their overlords were no longer invincible. Trade routes collapsed as merchant ships refused to leave port. The galactic economy began falling apart as everyone realized the truth. Humanity was not just another primitive species to be conquered and controlled. They were apex predators who had been hiding their true nature. 3 weeks after Nexus Prime's destruction, Admiral Jackson broadcast humanity's final message to the galaxy. Her words reached every inhabited world, every space station, and every ship in Confederation territory. People of the galaxy, this is Admiral Patricia Jackson of the Human Defense Fleet. Your Confederation is broken. Your overlords are scattered and powerless. Your empire is finished. But humanity is not your enemy. We are your liberators. The message continued for hours, reaching billions of beings who had lived under Confederation rule their entire lives. Jackson explained humanity's true intentions to a galaxy that had never known freedom from authoritarian control. Every species deserves the right to grow and develop without interference, she said. Every world should control its own destiny. Every being should have the chance to reach for the stars without asking permission from self-appointed masters. The age of Confederation dominance is over. The age of galactic freedom has begun. The response was overwhelming. Over 300 species declared independence within days. The Korani, whose beautiful crystal cities had been dismantled by the Council for being too aesthetically disturbing, began rebuilding their architectural wonders. The Palaxi, who had been forbidden from developing advanced technology, sent desperate requests for access to human technical databases. Elena Rodriguez had died, believing in the possibility of peace between species. Her murder had triggered the collapse of the greatest empire in galactic history. The Confederation had thought that killing one human diplomat would end humanity's interference in galactic affairs. Instead, it had freed an entire galaxy from 3,000 years of oppression. The skies had indeed turned black with vengeance. But what emerged from that darkness was not conquest or revenge. It was the dawn of a new age where no species would ever again face the choice between servitude and extinction. Elena's sacrifice had not brought the peace she had hoped for, but it had brought something even more valuable, the promise that her death would be the last time anyone would be murdered for believing in equality among the stars. Asterisk.